The Late Morning Program with Namras podcast.
Remix it. Auto-tune me. We're live? I don't want to be live. Nothing is live anymore, right? But wait, why do I have to speak the loudest? Can't I just like speak my normal conversational?
No, you can't. I was doing the testing of the audio.
Oh, okay.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Late Morning Program with Namras. Rebooted.
Right, hang on, I gotta get rid of this thing.
Okay, so
Pool floating.
I'm here with my dear friend and brother-in-law, Venkata Bhatta Dr. Venkata Bhatta. Thanks for joining me, man. Appreciate it.
It's kind of surreal to be back.
Dude, it's back. The Late Morning Program. Yeah. It's crazy because so many things are going on. So Keshav Marg was meant to come on today, but due to some like scheduling things, he wasn't able to do the episode. He had to go to his next program. He's doing like 3-4 programs.
But he's still going to do an episode just at
He'll
some
do it
future
someday.
date.
Yeah. So
Okay, that's fair.
But basically, we haven't talked about that. You're going to be like kind of my co-host sometime.
Yeah, sometime. I think we're still kind of feeling it out. But,
Yeah. I
co-host,
always enjoyed having
partner,
you.
like whatever you want to call it.
I really enjoyed like the Hriday Nandamaj episode that we did.
Did we do that? I don't remember. Did we do something about that?
Oh, yes, we did.
Might have.
You got a mean comment on there.
A mean
So we check it out?
comment. Yeah, let's check it out. I think I might
So
have.
for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we did a Krishna West episode with His Holiness Hriday Nandamaj and His Grace Brahmatirtha Prabhu, Venkata and I.
When was, that
and
wasn't
for
last year, right? That was a couple of years ago?
Yeah, that was,
How long has
let's
it been?
see. Oh gosh, I can't even tell when it was. Hold on.
Let's try to find. We're both. This is really riveting podcast material. We're both scrolling through our phones.
What was the
like-
person's name? Did they delete their comment?
They might have deleted their comment. You know, I screenshotted it, so let me pull it up.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I
Nice.
did. Okay,
Okay.
here we go. All right, you want to read it off on my phone? You want me to read it? I got it.
Let me read it.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
So just for context for folks, and I want to say also, if you haven't seen this podcast episode, I don't know how to put this in a way without like pissing you off, Nam, but don't watch it. Just, save yourself the trouble. Just don't even bother.
Well, I thought it was good. What are you talking about?
Enjoy your life. Do something else. Go for a
Yeah,
walk.
I see what you mean.
It just, there are some rabbit holes to go down. I'm glad we did it. I think it was important that we did it. And I stand by whatever, we were able to share. I know it wasn't so much time. It wasn't as much of a dialogue as I would have wanted.
Yeah.
But whatever we did get to share and whatever I got to share, I do stand by it. And I'm super appreciative of Hriday Nandamaj and Brahmatirtha Prabhu for agreeing to do it.
They kind of, were like agreeable and did it,
Completely.
even though they didn't have to, which I appreciated that.
And I think they, they gave their time. And at the end of the day, I am glad we did it because I think at the time there were some lingering feelings out there, I think, among some folks.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much Hriday Nandamaj himself. I think less him, but more like some other devotees like in his orbit, some of his students, some of his sort of friends and well-wishers who kind of felt like, okay, like we need to have a conversation. He needs to be able to get sort of his quote unquote side of the story out there.
Yeah.
And for that reason alone, I'm glad we did it. In retrospect, it wasn't, I don't think it's the most uplifting content. Let's put it that way. I think there's better stuff to do. There's videos of kittens on YouTube that you can watch and,
Did we
be
get
inspired
anywhere?
and then chant your rounds.
Did we get anywhere in the conversation? Because I can't remember. It was so not like impactful to me that like I don't remember the conversation.
I'm
not dissing the conversation. I'm just saying like
Yeah.
it just doesn't ring a bell, even the kind of stuff we talked about.
Well, for one thing, I feel like so much has happened since then, just in the world, in our lives. Like,
was it pre-COVID?
It was during COVID.
Oh, it was during COVID.
There's a whole new human being that like is in your family now.
I know. Gosh.
So is pre the birth of your daughter.
Probably pre-birth of my second son too.
Maybe, yeah, actually.
Because Charlie was born in 2020.
So maybe it was like when Charlie was really, really small.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Regardless, I mean, like a lot, like life has happened, right?
Yes.
And a lot has happened in the world, which, we don't necessarily have to get into because that's going to be more controversial than the original topic.
Right.
But we're living in a very like every day there's like a bunch of just crazy stuff happening, whether in politics, in just sort of society and culture.
Yeah.
And the devotional world is no exception to that. So there's like so much has happened, right? Women have become Diksha gurus and then have not become Diksha gurus and have become Diksha gurus again, like probably 3 or 4 times since that podcast happened. My point being, a lot has happened. So it's sort of understandable that feels like a lifetime ago. Was it an impactful conversation? Yes and no. I want to go back to, I think the fact that we had that conversation and we tried to just better understand each other and the sort of the different facets of this, I think is, we made strides and I think that's good.
Yeah.
Was it impactful in terms of really kind of coming to like resolutions and big takeaways and, have we transformed the question of Hinduization and the question of dhotis versus pants and Krishna West and Krishna East and the culture wars? No, probably not. And in some ways, maybe the, supposed or real rift between ISKCON devotees who identify very much with India, either being in India or kind of identifying with certain cultural positions, and devotees really identifying very strongly with, being Western or outreach to Western people. And again, a term that I don't even think we ended up defining very well. I think that divide is still there, unfortunately, and maybe it just will be. And, we'll have to see how it plays out. I don't know what a great, like, I don't even remember what the question you just asked was, Nam, but
it was about the episode and like how I don't remember so much from it.
Yeah. So,
but anyways, we got this comment just like a week ago.
Right. Which is also a little surprising because it's like, again, that episode was like, I remember it as being, 2020 or 2021. So we're talking about like significant amount of time has passed. So I was a little surprised that someone watches it and had strong enough feelings.
I'm first flattered that someone's still watching.
I could see that. I could see that for sure.
Yeah. So the comment was.
But first, tell us who's making this comment.
Okay, who's making this comment? Someone with the profile name Cherry Cola Smile.
Which, let's just take a moment to appreciate this, right? First of all, is the cola caffeine free? We don't know. We just know it has cherry.
I wouldn't be smiling with caffeine in it.
But also, it's just, I don't want to make too big of a deal of this, right? But I think it just, especially for those of us like myself who are old enough to sort of vividly remember the kind of like a pre-social media world.
Yeah.
Let's just take a moment to like appreciate how bizarre it is in a way in terms of like the history of our tradition that, you can now be like more or less completely anonymous. And dude, just like, like, can you imagine like a Bhagavatam class and like, at the end, the speaker's like, I think we have some time for some questions. Yes, Prabhu, could you tell us your name? And it's like, I'd rather not. Let's just call me Cherry Cola. But I have some problems with your like that wouldn't have happened.
Your class was horrible. You're this, you're that.
But by the way, I'm Cherry Cola Smiles 108, and that's about it, right?
That's about it.
And again, I'm not, I know that's the world we live in, but let's just like appreciate for a second.
Yeah.
That like this is the reality, right? That like people can basically just come up with like a username,
that's
no profile picture, nothing, and just like you're gonna hear what I have to think about you, and I'm sure this person is gonna be kind and thoughtful and really inspire us with their with their comments and their feedback. So let's hear it.
Let's hear it. So I sent it to Venkata, And my sister was like, why do we have to read this?
I love that.
Kushungi. This is a Kushungi thing to say.
She's like, why do we have to read? Okay. So let's try to do it like a little bit at a time.
The context of me sending it to you was because if you want to be a part of more podcasts on the late morning program, just got to be ready for this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Which I don't know. Should we put that to like a vote? Can you do a thing where there's like a thing on the bottom,
No,
like vote if you want Venkata on the podcast, or like vote him off the island? I don't know.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
Venkata is embarrassing.
Okay.
You can't comment on every line, bro.
Not every line, but come on.
Okay.
The first sentence, Venkata is, I mean, first of all, ouch, a little bit.
Ouch,
all right?
yes.
But also, like, if you're going to take me down, like, come up with something a little bit more original than that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is something that my wife tells me, like, if not daily, at least a couple of times a week. Like, that is not news to me, you know? Like, if you want to, like, if you want to mess with my head, like, that is probably not the most, you know, powerful thing to start with. It's like, I know I'm embarrassing.
But I'm telling you right now that the fact that we're discussing this whole comment like it's like a Bhagavatam verse, this cherry cola smile is going to be super chuffed. Like,
I don't know what chuffed means because I don't have a British spouse, but I'm guessing their cherry cola smile is just going to get a little bit bigger. But let's go for it. So Venkata's embarrassing. It's
funny.
like, I think like everyone from like my wife to my guru to my mom knows that. So
that's so funny.
But okay, point well taken. I am super embarrassing.
Venkata is embarrassing. He's so intertwined with Maya and trying to live by all the jargon of today's social media world and its societal expectations. He seems to have missed the entire point of original ISKCON and is full of lots of words that don't say anything.
All right, so the gloves are coming off. Okay. You know, to be fair,
this is like reading mean tweets. Like
right. It is a little bit like reading mean tweets. It's like a cross between reading mean tweets and there's a story, and I'm going to butcher it, I'm sure, but out of the Sri Vaishnav tradition, with one of the acharyas, actually the person who sort of became the prominent, you know, acharya of the sampradaya after Ramanujacharya. His name was Parasara Bhatta, this divinely conceived son of Kuresh. And there's a story, as best as I remember, it's been years, but that Parasara Bhatta there was this one person who used to kind of like follow Parasara Bhatta around whenever they were sort of doing parikram or going to darshan, and would just tell Parasara Bhatta like all the things that were like terrible about him. And all of his like disciples and everyone around him was just like would break their hearts. And then like one day, like the guy like just didn't show up. And they were all really happy, and Parasara Bhatta started like crying. He was weeping. I mean, again, I'm apologies to anyone who knows this story, and if I'm not getting it right, but this is how I remember it, hearing it. And when the disciples, the other devotees asked the Bhatta what why he was crying, he said that man was my true well-wisher and my true friend, because he had no interest in flattering me.
Wow.
And he was like holding up a mirror and showing me where I was falling short.
I love that.
I mean, it's a beautiful idea. And I wish I could say like imagine if like I actually started every day. I'm not going to do this, but imagine if I started every day, like reading some mean tweet and being like, yeah, I do have a lot of work to do. Like, imagine if I like did that and then sat down to do my japa in the morning. Like, would I be sleepy and distracted? And I'd probably be really like humbled and
kind of energized to do better.
Or if nothing else, just to be like, like this material world's kind of like a rough place. And right.
That's a really good realization.
Now, I think it hits a little bit different when it's like an anonymous comment on social media.
True.
So there's that side of it too. But I mean, that's a fair criticism. And one of the things that, in looking back at that podcast and at other like, what do you call them? Like sort of difficult conversations or like debates and stuff is, I do feel like probably I am guilty of that. I am guilty of sort of falling back on like buzzwords and jargon. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I was probably talking a lot about sort of diversity, inclusion, and maybe like white privilege and stuff like that, which was, especially at that time, really, really kind of in the air. It still is.
Right.
And sometimes it's easy to fall back on those buzzwords and to not actually maybe make such a point. At the same time, I mean, I feel like I've had that done to me too. So I can appreciate, I can appreciate it from sort of both angles. And I think that's the problem with a lot of these kind of culture war debates is, we each sort of fall back on our sort of buzzwords and we just keep kind of repeating ourselves with those things. Like I remember in this one, one of the things that maybe not on the podcast necessarily, but in other conversations, right? Because something a lot of listeners or viewers may not realize is there's the podcast, but then there's also all these conversations you're having around the podcast, before, after, online, in person, in Zoom call, whatever. And in one or more of those conversations, there were devotees who would just be like, they would just keep like repeating like the same thing over and over to me, right? Like Prabhu, like Prabhupada came for the Western world. Right. And it's like, okay, but like, what does that mean? Like, let's unpack, but they would just keep kind of like repeat it like as almost like a sort of like a substitute for actual like discussion, right? It's just like, I'm just going to repeat the mantra. I remember,
because it makes things black and white.
It makes things black and white. In another context, very different context, I won't go into the details, but there was a situation where I was disagreeing with the devotee about distributing books in a certain context. And I was like, Prabhu, like, this is not an appropriate context for you to be distributing books. Yeah. And this devotee, I could tell, was getting just more and more agitated. And what he kept saying was, but books are the basis. Right. Like literally, books are the basis. Yeah, and I was like, okay, I get that, I think, but also it would be great to have a conversation about what you think that means and what I think that means and what is, but it was almost like he was just like, no, like I'm just going to keep saying that until like I wear you down. So I can understand if I was doing that in the podcast a little bit, then yeah, guilty as charged, I guess.
You know that books and the basis, the 4 things that Prabhupada supposedly said?
Yeah.
I don't think he said those things.
I think there's like some story, right, about it comes from like a Chinese calendar or something.
Yeah.
It's like some really
utility
wild
is the principle. Books are the basis.
Preaching is the essence.
And
podcasts are the future. Is that the last one? No. What was it?
I don't remember.
Oh my gosh. This
Why
is
don't
embarrassing.
We know? Yeah, that is embarrassing.
Venkata is embarrassing.
Why don't we know that?
Why don't we know this? Books are the basis. No, purity is the force.
Purity is the force. Yeah.
Because we're impure. That's why we don't know it. We've lost our purity from
so let's
going
continue.
to Starbucks and watching Simpsons.
Oh yeah,
we'll get to. Okay, so go ahead.
He talks about diversity, but only on his terms, and is obsessed with race. When Krishna consciousness teach us, we are not this body.
Okay.
Are you obsessed with race?
I might be a little obsessed with race. No, I don't think I'm obsessed with race. I think if you have a conversation that is based around concepts and terms that are really contentious, like Hinduization or like...
whoever made that term up is obsessed with race.
I mean, that sounds like like you're bringing race into it, right?
Yeah.
There's a principle within law that if one side sort of brings up a certain topic, right? Like let's say like a lawyer is examining their witness and they ask their witness questions about a certain topic or certain event that happened. Then when the opposing side gets up to ask their questions, like that's fair game. And if the first attorney, stands up and raises their hand and says like objection, like that's irrelevant. Like, why are you bringing this up? The answer is, well, you opened the door to it, right?
Right.
And I'm not trying to be cutesy about it, but like when you have entire like position papers and movements and sub movements and and there's like so much concern and like people like hi about like Hinduization and we're losing the temples and we're being replaced, which by the way I've heard devotees say and is like, for those who follow this kind of stuff, like that's very loaded terminology. This idea of like we're being replaced, there's some like racial stuff going on there. I'm not saying, you have to agree or disagree, but I'm just saying you're bringing race into the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have with due respect, because I'm not like looking for like, round 3 or 4 or whatever it is now. Yeah. I'm not trying to pick a fight, but with due respect, when you have a movement that's called Krishna West, when you're talking about East and West as these like binaries and these, I think that like, you know, the train has left the station. You're already talking about race. You're already talking about ethnicity. You're already sort of acknowledging that we do engage on the bodily platform. We are embodied beings, and culture and race and ethnicity and all this stuff does matter in this conversation. So it's like, I feel it's like a little disingenuous to then go, oh, but like, why are you so obsessed with race? You know, we're not this body, Prabhu. It's like,
Totally.
you know, it's like, well, you can't have it both ways. You know, you can't sort of like have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone keeps locking. It's very unprofessional. Okay.
Just take a picture of it because
This is like the cutting edge technology of late morning program. We got pictures of pictures.
we are our culture, however, and this is inescapable. Someone commented about him starting a Krishna safe space, and it exactly sums him up.
I think that was
what
like
does that mean?
I think that's like a dig because like safe space is like what, like liberal, snowflakey, whatever. Like,
right.
So it's like sort of like, oh, like if you're unhappy with Krishna West, go start like a Krishna snowflake. That's how I read it.
Oh,
which,
okay.
not for nothing, but like, shouldn't every temple and community be literally a safe space? Like, we're freaking being like, you know, kicked around by like all sorts of like just terrible forces in the material world, and like somehow or other we come to a devotional community. Like, I realize they're trying to be sarcastic and whatever. I get the dig, but like honestly, I don't think it's such a terrible thing to want every devotional space to be safe. And at the risk of sounding like, you know, naive, there are spaces that's what's kept me going for, you know, X number of years in Krishna consciousness, to be quite honest with you, is that thank Krishna that there are spaces within this larger ISKCON world, which can be like a hella rough place, which can sometimes feel like a rougher place than even the secular world. But thank God that there are safe spaces within that I know I can go to. And there's people devotees really trying their best to actually take things like humility and tolerance and love and appreciation and, you know, like taking all this stuff seriously, at least as an aspiration. So yeah, okay. If safe space, if I want a safe space, then like, yeah, maybe that's not such a bad thing. I don't know.
I feel that it comes with age and with interacting with the outside world. When I notice some devotees, when they're so insular and kind of in the bubble, things like this make a difference and rubs them the wrong way in a really big way. But I feel the more I interact with the outside world and I see our devotional community, I'm so much more appreciative of that and all these little things that I thought were important maybe a few years ago. Now as a father and as a, you know, it's a big, you know, life change to have a family and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think those things are so transient and just don't make a difference anymore. Jiva falls, bhakti's inherency, this race thing, but whatever it is, like it is important in its own way for sure. But in my own life, I feel that I just want to hear that I'm not the body, and I want to hear really inspiring stories that could help me uplift myself in devotional service. Yeah. And I'm really cool with that. And if the class is you're not this body and this world is suffering, I'm all ears on that. I don't know. Just for me personally, I just love hearing that kind of thing. Reading Prabhupada's books, like from, you know, I'm studying now Bhagavad Gita again, and also I'm reading some like the really small books, like from the 70s. Those are so like nice because it's like preaching to me, because I need to be preached to, I feel. I really need to be preached to, because I am considering myself to be the body. I am considering myself that this is my life and these are my possessions and these are my attachments. But I need to hear, like, Prabhupada came to preach to me, like came to preach to us, and I still need to hear that. And I don't know exactly what my point was, but I like what you said about you know, just this kind of comment that made me say this point.
No, that I'm not sure how we got here, but I think it's the idea that, like, I think devotee communities, I don't know when it became sort of unpopular or like uncool to sort of say this out loud, but like devotee spaces should be like inspiring and uplifting and should like benefit us.
Totally.
And you're right. I think sometimes we get so lost in the weeds of like this controversy, that controversy, this argument, whatever, that we might lose sight of that. The other thing, since we're on the subject, I know, we don't want to take too much time on this, but this whole, like, if we really want to get into this whole thing of like bodily platform, it's such a deep teaching to actually try to correct lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, according to our theology, of misidentification as the body.
Yes.
And we do need to keep hearing it over and over again. And I would not that I'm disagreeing with you, but I would nuance it a little bit in that I feel like, this is my hot take, so get ready for another
Venkata's hot take.
I feel like as a community or a society collectively, we've become really, really kind of comfortable with the sentence, "You are not this body," because it's like easy to point it out.
Mm-hmm.
But my understanding is that teaching, like most of these philosophical, theological teachings, principles, what have you, it's meant to be in the first person. In other words, I'm meant to reflect and meditate and practice, and my sadhana should be helping me personally. I'm not worried. I shouldn't be so worried about you and that person down the street and the temple president over there and the dude on the internet, who I have a grudge against. But no, for me, in what ways am I still subtly and grossly identifying with my body, identifying as my mind, my thoughts, my emotions, my attachments, my aversions, my identities as a this, as a that, right? Politically, culturally, in all these ways, including race, including ethnicity, including gender stuff, including all this stuff. That stuff is real in terms of my sort of prakritic world, right? Like I'm actually, as long as I'm embodied, like I have to deal with stuff, but let me reflect and introspect. Am I sort of moving a little bit more towards, I'm a spirit soul. I'm a tiny, precious spark of Krishna, or am I digging my heels into this, these other identities? That's a personal project for me to reflect on. Yeah. That's why I say, like, we're much better at the, like, you are not this body, Prabhu. Like, so you have a cold, right? The classic ISKCON example is like, you have a cold, you're not feeling well. And, right. and what's my first response to is, well, you're not this body. It's like, suck it up. Right. Yeah. I don't know if anyone still does that, but but believe it or not, back in the day, that was like, especially if you were an ashram devotee and you were like told to go out on books or come to the morning program or whatever, it was very typical to have your authority tell you, well, you're on the bodily platform, get over it. Essentially, we're collectively much more comfortable with that than we are, I think, with doing the harder work of like, let me not worry so much about everyone else out there. Yeah. Let me give them the benefit of the doubt that they're doing, they're on their journey towards Krishna and towards re-identifying their true, spiritual identity. How am I doing on that journey? Right. And so that's my whole thing with whenever I see sort of like Cherry Cola 64 or whatever their name is, whenever I see someone sort of use that, like, oh, like, you don't even know, like, you're not this body kind of thing. For me, it's sort of like, okay, well, what are you doing with that beautiful teaching? Are you using that as a way to, again, uplift yourself? I know I'm using that word a lot, but it's intentional. Are you really drawing down on this amazing, precious, game-changing wisdom teaching of our tradition? Or are you just kind of using it as a way of, like, as a weapon or as a put down or something?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. Let's continue reading that. Hridayananda Goswami completely schooled him here with real knowledge of history, the world, life experience, and common sense, not found on a college campus or social media world, but found actually getting outside and living in the real world where most people are. You, my friend, don't live in the real world.
I
don't know. I can't get on board with that. That's a little funny.
It's a little funny. It's a little funny. Just and let's just make it clear, right? This is someone's interpretation. This is not, full disclosure. To be fair, this is not what Sridhar Maharaj himself is saying or accusing me of.
No.
But I do think it's funny that and like kind of like one of these like Kali Yuga has arrived moments when like the guy that has like the job in the secular world that's like literally going to work like every day and like cashing in those paychecks and like saving up to send his daughter to college, ship her off to the slaughterhouse or whatever, right? Like that guy, like the guy that like, only like a decade or two ago would have been like, he's such a carmy. That guy is suddenly being accused of being in a bubble, and the monk, like the Swami, is the one like living in the real world. Like the whole like dichotomy just seems a little screwy to me.
No. I'm sorry. It's not you.
Like,
I mean,
I'm not, and also it's like sort of like choose a lane, right? So either I'm being too influenced by the material world and I'm caught up and I'm intertwined with Maya, or I'm just like, I need to go out there and experience a real world. Like, which do you want me to do? I don't quite get it. The other thing is like, did Sridhar Maharaj school me? I don't know. Maybe a semester. I don't know. Like it's like a study abroad semester that was like,
excuse me.
That
I wouldn't say he schooled.
But I don't know. At school, that's maybe overstating it. But even if he did, like assuming, right, just for the sake of argument, that like, yeah, like the conclusion is like Venkata got schooled. Like, if you're gonna get schooled by someone, I don't know. Like, I'm not feeling too bad about getting schooled by Sridhar Maharaj, like someone who's got like his PhD from Harvard.
Yeah.
Like he's like translating the Mahabharata. Like if you're gonna get schooled by someone, get schooled by the guy who like literally wrote the purports to like the 11th and 12th cantos of the Bhagavatam. Right?
Yeah, right.
Like sometimes I just like imagine like Sridhar Maharaj is giving a Bhagavatam class, and in the Q&A someone's like, well, in the purport it says, and then he can be like, yeah, I remember writing that purport. You know what I mean? Like
it's sick.
Like
that's a flex.
That's such a flex, right?
Yeah.
And like more like all glories to that flex. Like let him like do that flex. I don't think he actually flexes that way, but like like he's earned that flex. Like who am I, right? So like I don't even think this is one of the reasons why when devotees would sometimes like after the fact or even before, but especially after, they'd be like, oh yeah, like you were the person that like debated Sridhar Maharaj. I'd be like, no, you can't call it a debate, right? Like
I'm not Ted Patrick.
Yeah, like I'm not Ted Patrick. Exactly. Thank you. I'm not Ted Patrick. Like in this corner we've got like the Acharya who wrote the who continued the work of translating and commenting on the Bhagavatam, and over here you've got Venkata. Like what? Like it's just there's no.
Did people say that to you, that you're the one who debated?
Yeah, I mean that word was thrown around, in the sort of like the weeks or whatever following that, which I get, but also like, to me a debate is something very different. And in all seriousness, like even in terms of format, in terms of like what you're trying to accomplish, I looked at that as a conversation. Unfortunately, I mean, I feel like one critique of it was I wish, looking back, if I could sort of do it over, I would, I think, be a little bit more assertive at times to make it more conversational. I think it felt a little bit more like monologue, and then like another mononologue, and then
with,
like back and
little
forth.
Me trying to interrupt in between,
with Nam sort of like making little sounds like like it's like, but so to me that's not like a debate, right? But even besides that, like I never wanted it to be a debate, because like debates, if not between equals, should at least have like, there should at least be like, you know what I'm saying? There should at least be some kind of like parity.
Yeah.
And as much as I disagree with Sridhar Maharaj, and like newsflash, I still do. And as much as I still have my qualms about Krishna West, and I still find certain things problematic, et cetera, I have deep respect. I recognize him as not just my senior in the sort of formal etiquette sense of like him being like Guru Varga, but but senior in the sense of like, in terms of realization, in terms of bhajan, in terms of gyan, in terms of, you know, in terms of his relationship with Prabhupada and the sacrifices he made, the service he performed, like no question.
Epic, yeah.
So again, you know, like, okay, if I got schooled, like, yeah, that's like kind of getting an Ivy League education. Like, you know,
It's good to get schooled.
It's not such a bad thing to get schooled after all, I guess.
He needs to lay off watching The Simpsons for his knowledge and argument points and read some of Prabhupada's books.
See, this is what I get offended by. This is why
Why do you have to drag Simpsons into
why
it?
do they have to offend the Simpsons?
So offensive.
So offensive. It's like, yes, you can read Prabhupada himself acknowledged that, yes, primarily his books, right? But that you could also, there's supplementary, there's literatures in pursuance of the Vedic version. Can't we just make some room? I mean, occasionally The Simpsons drop some wisdom, right? No, in all seriousness, I just think that's a cheap shot and just kind of dumb, to be honest.
Because I think you quoted The Simpsons.
I quoted a Simpsons episode.
That probably was.
I still say that, like, and if you haven't seen the episode, maybe it's lost on you. I don't know if
I'm gonna link it.
Chicka Cherry Cola has watched this episode, but you know, yeah, you can link it. Right?
I'm gonna link it down in the comments.
Probably get you banned from YouTube for some copyright violation or
That's
something.
true, yeah.
But you know, gold from a filthy place. I don't know. Like, you can find wisdom. Yeah. I just thought it was such an apt, and I still do, by the way. I'm unrepentant in this. I think it was such a good metaphor or analogy. This is the Malibu Stacy with the hat, and you know.
Oh, that's what it was.
I don't remember like relying on, like, I don't remember being like, according to, you know, like Sri Homaru Vacha. Like, I wasn't like citing to it as Shastra. I was just being like, hey, I'm going to use this as, you know, a little bit of a cheeky analogy, because I think it really captures in a very vivid way this idea that I still feel is like something we ought to look at.
Yeah.
This tendency to instead of really kind of going deeper and like really thinking about things in a deeper way and really like, I admit, like, I lean towards the more progressive side of things, but I really want to see thoughtful approaches to being progressive, not just sort of like surface level, like, okay, it's all about what you wear. It's all about, you know, this sort of branding versus that sort of branding. Like, yeah, that has its place, but like, can we do better than that? That's the only point I was trying to make with the whole Simpsons analogy. Yeah. And as for reading Prabhupada's books, again, in the spirit of the Parasara Bhattar example that I raised earlier, I mean, a part of me wants to just be defensive and be like, I've read so many books and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But the point is, like, yeah, could I stand to like read more, study more, return to books that I've read already, but maybe didn't read, you know, so deeply? Of course. And like you were saying, there's actually something really beautiful and something really enjoyable about going back and like reading that book that you've read before, reading it again, going back to basics, whatever you want to call it, right? With this amazing library of books that Prabhupada gave us. But I also think there's like a huge assumption being made there that I'm not doing that already, or I haven't done that. And I don't really think that's warranted. You know, again, I'll admit, like, one of my many faults, and I'm not just sort of being like, you know, that's not forced humility, but I'm honestly saying, especially as I get older, is we're all individuals. One of my weaknesses, which I've realized, is I don't have a great memory for Shastra in terms of like quoting verses. So often and especially I've noticed this as I've gotten older, like my memory was much better, especially like the years right after I did Bhakti Shastri. I was like I would like in casual conversations, I would just be like, you know, at a bus stop, and I'd ask some guy like, do you know what time it is? And then before the guy could answer, I'd be like, kalos me, you know, like any excuse to like flex the, you know, the verses you memorize from Bhakti Shastri.
Yeah.
I've been humbled as I get older. My memory is just not as what it used to be. I struggle to come up with verses. I get nervous and clumsy when reciting the Sanskrit, and I'll like, you know, so often my approach is I feel much more comfortable sort of referencing Shastra, not just the actual Shastra, the verses, but even philosophical points that Prabhupada makes in purports or in other books. but referencing those points in a way that I'm like paraphrasing or drawing from them.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. And I think we ought to like make some room. I have so much respect for devotees who are like walking Vedic encyclopedias and who can just like I watched Gauranga Prabhu give a class, and I literally look for teleprompters because my ego like can't handle. Like I can't accept that he is so, or like Gauranga Darshan or Amarendra, so many devotees who like are just quoting like verse, Keshav Maharaj, S.P. Keshav Maharaj, they're like quoting like verse after verse, beautifully chanting melodiously with feeling, not just like parrots, but like with genuine feeling, the right verse for the right time. And I'm like the only way I can make myself feel better is like, he must have like a cheat sheet somewhere. Like he must have a teleprompter, right? Because like a part of me can't even accept that it's humanly possible. But when I do accept it, I'm just like in awe of them. Yeah. But I've also come to realize like, I'm not them. I'm not going to be them. I don't have to be them. I don't have to compare myself to them. Yeah. And so, to Coca-Cola, Cherry Cola Smiles. I want to say like, okay, I could stand to read some more, but also like, just maybe don't make so many assumptions about people and what they read and what they've read and where they're coming from, because you might be surprised between Simpsons episodes. I do pick up a book every now and then. Yeah. I should also say that I only watch the first couple of seasons of The Simpsons because before like the BBT and before they started changing stuff. I only do the original Simpsons stuff. I'm a pre 70. What is it? Pre 78?
72. Max 72.
I'm Max 72 Simpsons all the way.
Thank you. Well, Cherry Cola Smile, you probably feel really happy that we discussed your comment for this long.
I want to say thank you, Cherry Cola Smile. Keep smiling.
Keep smiling. Keep smiling that Cherry Cola Smile. Keep commenting and watching. And I like that point you made about keeps us humble, makes us more introspective. Like maybe some YouTube comments do have a point sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah. Someone might be commenting like right now. They might be like, I'm distracted by how handsome Venkata is. Please, don't distract me so much. Please have like less good looking guests. I don't know. I can't control people and their criticisms. Just have to roll with it.
Yeah. Man, that's good.
This brings back some
dude, I
didn't realize I missed this.
Dude, I love bantering with you. I love it. Yeah. It's so much fun.
So much fun.
We were talking about, when Kesha Swami came over and we were sitting at lunch and we were just talking about like Gaudiya Vaishnav history and stuff. That was cool. That was very cool. A lot of stuff. I feel like I know a lot of stuff too. I'm not going to I'm not boasting or anything, but I know some history.
I think you were a history major, weren't you?
I was a history major.
So you kind of have that like little taste for history.
That's true. That's true, yeah. But something about when I was a kid, I just loved reading Prabhupada letters. And I loved like that Shikshamrita book.
I know, right?
I went through because remember it was by subject matter too. It was like God brothers.
Yes.
It was women, children. Like I would read all the different what tastes do I want to have today? Let's read about what Prabhupada said about children or something. Like all the thing, and I would like tell my parents like, see, Prabhupada said you gotta send them to Gurukul, or you gotta show them the stick, and so
this went south really fast. I'm like, really gonna open up that can of worms?
Okay, maybe that's not a good example, but.
No, but I hear you. Actually, Keshav Maharaj has a really good story about the whole like Shikshamrita or conversations book, but I don't want to steal his thunder, so I won't tell it now.
Wait, he has a what?
He has a story about that. Oh, okay. So just when the stars align and we can talk to him. Yes. Let's ask him about that.
Yeah, totally.
But I feel you. There's something about that, like just knowing the history and some of those like very personal exchanges and. With Prabhupada, but also like even going further back into our history. And now we have resources, or amazing resources to do that. There's a whole
Bhaktivedanta Archive, Institute? I think the one in Calcutta.
Oh yeah, what is that one
Bhakti Vinod Archive. No.
Yeah, we need to figure out the name of that before we
Bhaktivedanta Institute. Something.
We'll edit out all of this because we sound like total morons. We're like,
I'm not editing anything.
What's called the Bhakti Center? No, that's something else. Hold on, the Bhakti Marg. Oh no, definitely not that. Oh crap, what was it? We're gonna edit out all of this.
No, we're not.
We're editing out all of this.
No, we're not.
Yes, I'll make sure that you cannot use any of this.
Oh man, that's funny. Hey,
Do we gotta go? We should.
yeah,
I think we should have
to.
ended this like 15 minutes
We
ago.
have to go, yeah. But so I want you to come for future episodes.
Yeah.
You'll be sitting here, guest over there.
Okay.
And you know, I just love our dynamic and all that energy that you bring. That's completely different from my energy, I think. That's what I really
'Cause I'm
appreciate.
embarrassing.
No, you're not
It's
embarrassing.
embarrassing energy.
No, it's not. Yeah. So
But I feel you. I think there's it's nice when you can have like different moods, different approaches.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we do that, and maybe, you know, in the future we could sort of like play with, you know, what that might look like, even with like other kinds of conversations, or yeah.
Also, guys, let me know in the comments what you think about. I was thinking, like, if there's some current events that we want to comment, maybe on like from a spiritual point of view, from a Hare Krishna point of view, maybe that's also relevant, because I see, okay, devotees give classes online on YouTube and things like that, but there's not really some kind of social lens or Krishna conscious lens on social things, social events or whatever it might be, or current events rather. I think that's also really interesting, because we're all in this world and we all watch the news and things. And sometimes to know other devotees' opinion or on some kind of current event is also really, I think, important. And
There used to be a column in BTG called, like, I think it was called the Vedic Observer.
yes,
Remember that? And that
I
was this.
loved that.
That was like, yeah, I didn't care for it too much, to be honest, but
I liked it.
I could see, I think that's yeah, I could get it. I was like, I'd read it and I'd be like, this is, what garbage is this? Nom probably like, no, I'm just kidding. I didn't even know you then. No, but it was that. It was, and I didn't actually call it garbage before someone comments.
And they like stopped doing it because it probably got too controversial.
I don't know. I think they just stopped having columns.
Oh,
because
right.
they used to have columns, right? Like there was like Vraj Kishore had the straight talk.
Yes.
Which had nothing to do with like being straight or gay. It was straight edge. By
Yeah,
the way,
right,
For anyone
straight
who doesn't know
edge.
that term.
Yeah.
But it was called straight talk. And
Straight talk.
And he was kind of like edgy about it. And
Yes.
it would like, and I think people used to write and complain to him too. And, you know.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, and then there was like India's Heritage was one.
Radhika Raman did one.
Radhika
too.
Raman, I think he did India's Heritage, but when he was like 10 years old or something. It was like really wild.
And then there was a cow protection one.
There was a cow protection one.
Hare Krishna Dasi. And
That was the cow protection. Yeah.
Rohini Nandan.
Yeah. Satsura Maharaj did one called like On the Road or something that I don't remember exactly what it was called. His was a little bit more like,
Yo, why don't they bring
Artsy?
that back? It was so good.
I
Let's
liked
do a
it
whole
too.
episode on BTG. We'll just review a BTG.
we should do a whole episode where we just read old BTGs like out loud.
Yes.
And we just like, but we like act out all the voices as if we are those people, but we don't know what they sound like. Because I've never heard like Hare Krishna Dasi, but I think I could like do like some kind of.
She was like wearing a bandana with like these
I
big
remember
glasses.
that. She would have the bandana, and
She
you
had
would
just come from the ox farming or something.
there was. That's right. And I remember not knowing these devotees.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, kind of, it was formative in my sort of Krishna conscious like development, right? It was my like sort of becoming a devotee, identifying with it as a devotee. And I would read these BTGs, which, by the way, for everyone who like puts down BTGs, including myself, who, you know, I'm guilty of that as well.
Yeah.
You know, you never know who's actually like really being impacted. And in those years,
Oh, yeah, mad
I was like really like that was a big part of my like kind of coming up in Krishna consciousness. Not just in terms of the content of those articles, but also like, it sounds funny, but even though I didn't know any of these people, and I mean, I still don't know a lot of those devotees. I've met some since then, right? But I just remember like almost like, if as bizarre as it sounds, feeling like I knew them just from having read those columns. And I would like almost like imagine what they were like in real life. And I felt as a sort of a teenager in Krishna consciousness at times where, you know, home life wasn't so conducive to that. And I wasn't necessarily plugged into like temple communities all the time. It could be lonely. And I remember feeling like a little less lonely because like, I was like, oh, like I can sort of imagine like hanging out on a farm with like Hare Krishna Dasi and her bandana, or like I remember looking at this like little kid, like Radhika Raman, being like, who is this person? Like, you know, and like kind of imagining what he was like and like what his voice sounded like.
You had your own one.
I did not have my own one. No,
You wrote in one though.
I wrote. I wrote an article that they put in.
That was an epic article about like putting on tilak when your parents left to go somewhere, like because it was kind of a taboo thing in your family to do that. You'd like put on tilak and you just narrated the whole thing. That was so good. That's even before I actually knew you.
Yeah, that was before we met. That was before.
You know Rohini Nandan, who wrote some of those? I actually met him. Yeah, from England. I met him.
Yeah, he was another one that I used to be like, always imagine what he was like.
He wrote good articles too, and I met him like maybe 10 years ago. Amazing. Yeah, around 10 years ago. Yeah. He looks completely different. He had like a beard and kind of big sideburns, wearing sunglasses, and my mother-in-law was like, yo, that's Rohini Nandan. I was like, that same Prabhupada disciple from the BTG? Sick.
Did you go up to him where you're like, Prabhu, in volume 27, issue 12, you mentioned, and he's like, who's this kid? But I did go up to him and I was like, hey, Prabhu, I liked your PTG. I actually did say that. You did. Good for you.
But now I think like, he was probably like, whoa, that's really coming out of
a little random.
Left field. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we should end.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you, VBD. And let me know in the comments what you think about this episode. Cherry Cole the Smile. Give a comment. Your rebuttal.
Peace.
Take care.
Arrivo.